is something just deeply fundamentally human about wanting to know exactly where we stand with time. We're constantly measuring our lives, even when we pretend we aren't, right? We count our birthdays, we scrutinize old photographs, we definitely notice when our energy levels start to shift, and we quietly ask ourselves if we still feel capable inside our own skin. Because aging, as it turns out, is partly biological, but it is also intensely psychological. We are always trying to figure out if time is moving through us gently or, well, harshly. We want to know if we're holding steady or drifting toward decline way faster than we expect.
Which brings us to a pretty wild question. Is your body actually older than your birthday? I know, it sounds a bit like a riddle, but this really sets up the core premise of our explainer today. What if the calendar we use to track our lives, the one that dutifully flips over every 365 days, is telling a completely different story than the invisible clock ticking away inside our cells?
Section 1. The illusion of time. So for almost all of human history, we frankly had no meaningful way to answer how fast we were actually aging. We really could only guess. Doctors could look at outward symptoms, or we could look at wrinkles and graying hair to kind of estimate someone's vitality. Researchers could look at mortality patterns across whole populations, but the actual molecular pace of biological aging inside a specific individual human body, that was completely hidden from us. To really grasp this, think about the stark contrast between the calendar and, say, a car engine. On one side, we have chronological age. That is literally just a measurement of how many years have passed outside your body since you were born. But on the flip side, we have epigenetic age, which attempts to measure how deeply those years have actually altered your body internally. It's exactly the difference between how long a car has been parked in the driveway versus how much physical wear and tear is actually on the engine.
The source material actually puts this perfectly. The body carries a biochemical record of time that can be read through patterns of cellular regulation. This is absolutely crucial to understand. Aging isn't just this abstract philosophical progression anymore. It is a measurable molecular reality. We aren't just guessing based on wrinkles. We are literally reading the biochemical record.
Section 2. The molecular breakthrough.
Back in 2013, a researcher named Steve Horvath completely shifted the entire field. He published this landmark paper in the journal Genome Biology. He analyzed thousands of datasets across dozens of different tissue types, essentially hunting for tiny chemical modifications on our DNA that strongly correlate with getting older. And he found that you could estimate a person's biological age by looking at exactly 353 specific chemical markers, they're called CpG sites, across multiple tissues. From Horvath's work came what we now call the Horvath Clock. And the big deal wasn't just that it correlated with chronological age, it was that it did so across the entire body with this striking, undeniable consistency. For the first time ever, researchers had a robust, molecular estimate of aging.
But here is where the real whoa moment happened. Researchers started noticing this phenomenon known as epigenetic age acceleration. Simply put, this is when your epigenetic age appears older than your chronological age. Imagine a 50-year-old walking around with the cellular, chemical profile of someone who is biologically 60. It's essentially the human equivalent of dog years, where one single calendar year equals a whole lot more internal wear and tear. And this wasn't just some quirky lab trick. This acceleration actively predicted higher risks of disease, frailty, cognitive decline, and even earlier mortality. It proved that the body was aging at wildly different speeds in different people.
Section 3. Beyond the calendar years.
That realization pushed the science way beyond just trying to match the calendar. I mean, the goal was no longer building a fancy clock just to guess how many birthday candles you blew out last year. Because chronological age alone predicts surprisingly little about how well you are actually functioning. You could have two 70-year-olds with vastly different levels of heart health, mobility, and overall resilience. Science had to shift from matching the calendar to actually predicting physiological risk and look at all the different footprints left on our DNA. Environmental exposures, chronic inflammation, metabolic stress, the history of cellular replication, oxidative damage, and hormonal signaling. Your epigenome is not static. Your biological processes leave cellular footprints on your DNA methylation patterns over time. Your body absorbs stress, trauma, maybe poor sleep, or toxins, and those experiences leave a tangible chemical memory.
This innovation unfolded incredibly fast. We started in 2013 with the Horvath Clock, which basically just matched chronological age. Then came the next generation, specifically Morgan Levine's PhenoAge, which shifted the focus to quantifying physiological wear by pulling in actual clinical biomarkers. And then, in 2019, Aki Liu and colleagues introduced GrimAge.
Now, GrimAge really shook up the field because it explicitly targeted mortality risk by looking at things like your smoking history and specific plasma proteins. Aging was becoming statistically visible to doctors long before a person actually collapsed clinically.
I want to pause on this incredible insight for a second. The organism ages as a network. Epigenetic clocks like GrimAge are exceptionally powerful precisely because they integrate overlapping biological signals across multiple systems at the exact same time. They totally outperform older, isolated biomarkers, like say just looking at telomere length. Because human aging is multidimensional. It's like a giant puzzle. The body tells a much larger story than any single mechanism can explain on its own.
Section 4. The dangers of measurement. Now, whenever science hands us a shiny new tool to measure our own mortality, society reacts with a really potent mix of intense fascination and deep, deep anxiety. And we are seeing this play out right now. People take these biological age tests seeking reassurance, or conversely, they take them terrified of confirming their own decline. We're seeing an absolute explosion of longevity companies promising personalized insights. People are out there tracking their methylation patterns after changing their diet or their sleep or their workout routines. It makes sense, right? It is profoundly human to want immediate feedback on whether our efforts to stay healthy are actually working.
But there's a real psychological danger here, and it's the tension between identity and orientation. The temptation is to reduce a wildly complex human life down to a single deterministic score. If someone gets an accelerated age score, they might interpret it catastrophically, like their doom is officially sealed. Or they might go the other way and become totally obsessed with optimization, treating their life like an ongoing lab experiment. The source material emphasizes that these clocks are tools for orientation. They are probabilistic. They just reveal tendencies, risks, patterns of burden, and resilience. They are not absolute prophecies. You, as a human being, are not reducible to a methylation score.
Section 5.
The dynamic clock.
All of this reveals something pretty profound. Aging isn't just a physical wearing down of parts. It's actually a loss of biological information. Researchers like David Sinclair refer to this concept as epigenetic noise. Basically, it's a gradual disruption of the regulatory systems that allow our cells to maintain their identity and do their jobs. Over time, your cells literally lose access to the clean instruction patterns that once organized repair and metabolism. So aging begins to look less like a mechanical countdown on a stopwatch and a lot more like a gradual erosion of biological coherence. The signals are getting crossed, and these clocks are detecting that drift.
Yet the story doesn't end with inevitable decline. There is definitely cautious hope here. Early studies are actually suggesting that some of these methylation changes might prove to be partially reversible. Just look at the interventions surrounding the biological clock. Cellular reprogramming, lifestyle changes, metabolic improvements, exercise, reducing stress, and fixing your sleep. They all show potential to meaningfully shift your biological age markers. Now, the field is still very young, so we definitely shouldn't exaggerate the claims. But the massive takeaway here is that your biological age is not completely frozen.
It all comes back to this incredibly empowering truth: the body is responding to how life is lived. Aging is not just some passive, inevitable decline unfolding mechanically from the day you were born. Actually, scratch that. It's more like an active, highly dynamic biological process. It is continuously being shaped by the constant interaction between your genes, your environment, your behavior, the stress you deal with, and your body's repair systems. You genuinely have agency in this process.
The organism isn't simply moving through time. As our source beautifully puts it, time is moving through the organism, leaving measurable traces behind. Think about that for a second. That is an absolute paradigm shift. We have moved from a world governed strictly by an external uniform calendar to a world where we recognize the incredibly personalized, deeply responsive biological clock ticking underneath our skin. And for the very first time in human history, science is actually learning how to read those traces. So I'll leave you with this final thought to chew on. What story are the measurable traces inside your body writing right now?
Thank you for watching. If something in this resonated with you, then you're already closer than you think. If you're ready to go deeper, there's a link below to my book, The Survival Self: How Childhood Adaptation Becomes Adult Identity, and How to Finally Live Beyond It. This isn't theory, it's a framework you can actually use. Tap the link below and step into it.